With the Iowa Lottery's new Millionaire for Life game, you could win $1 million a year for life. That could make you My Dream Job is No Job a front row tickets to every show a hire a personal glam squad for you and your bestie
Yep, a little further.
or just to never run out of your favorite pickles With Millionaire for Life from the Iowa Lottery,
And these.
you can change your life for life. Play today.
The biggest party of the year is here. Zach Brown Band Love and Fear Tour, presented by Margaritaville at Sea. Friday, November 20th, KC Center. Zach Brown Band. With special guest, Grace Potter. Tickets are on sale now at ZachBrownBand.com.
And a little bit of chicken fried.
Don't miss Zach Brown Band Love and Fear live.
Jake Brend and Derek Duke break down everything you need to know throughout the Big 12. This is Bigger Than 12, presented by WealthCharter Retirement Planning and Tax. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Bigger Than 12 on Iowa Everywhere.
Da 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 da. Welcome to Bigger Than 12 here in the Channel Seed Studios. I'm so fired up for this show, man. Oh. Selection Sunday just gives me chills.
Are you talking about the men's or the women's bracket?
Both. I love this time of year. I'm a little down about the Cyclones' draw in the women's bracket. I can't lie, but at the same time, the great United States of America, the best country on earth, did beat the Soviets in hockey in 1980, so who knows? Who knows?
What the hell does that have to do with anything now?
I'm sure the odds of Iowa State going into UConn and beating number one UConn is about the same as the U.S. beating the Soviets back in the 80s.
Oh. Soviets, yes. I would say, well, with the Canadian, we've been kicking the Canadians' ass.
We're better.
Everything lately. Everything.
We're better than the Canadians at hockey. They just got to deal with it. But this is not about hockey. This is a basketball show today. It's Bigger Than 12 here in the Channel Seed Studios. I am Jake Brend, joined by Derek Duke. If you're new, thanks for being here. We're going to talk so much Big 12 basketball. Just a little lay of the land. Yes, we're on Iowa Everywhere. Yes, I am an Iowa State reporter. But this show's about, Iowa State's kind of just another team on this show. We talk about everyone the same, go in depth. Maybe not on the Utahs of the world, the same this time of year as Arizona, but we're going to be talking about all 8 teams for the Big 12 that made the NCAA tournament. And it's all brought to you by WealthCharter Retirement Planning and Tax. We are, as you're listening to this, less than a month away from tax day.
Oh.
Gross. It can be less gross if you go to Tim Hawkins and WealthCharter, a professional that he's your professional's favorite professional. Tim Hawkins and his team can get all of your taxes in check and help save you some money. And then they can save future you some money as well by setting up your retirement plans with them and any other future money market accounts, any of that to help make your 60-year-old self have a little more money when you're ready for retirement. Hit up Tim Hawkins and his team at WealthCharterRetirement.com. Well, we've got the bracket. 8 Big 12 teams make it. Got a 1 seed, 2 2 seeds, a 2 5 seeds, a 6 seed, an 8 seed, and a 10 seed. I think I got that right. Sorry, I've already looked at the bracket like 100 times, so I did that off the dome. Arizona's your 1 seed. Iowa State and Houston both get 2s. Texas Tech and Kansas both slide down to a 5 seed. Or no, sorry.
Kansas is
a 4. Yes. I was St. John's is the 5 in their region. BYU's a 6 seed. TCU gets a 9, which 8-9, same thing. And UCF gets the 10 seed, which apparently I've got to start calling them UCF because I made that bet on this show that if they made the tournament, I'd stop calling them Central Florida. I didn't specify for how long, so it might just be for a show or two. But I'll refer to the Knights as UCF. So I say we probably just go through some, just early first, second round draw. We don't have to break down everyone's entire path. But Arizona, of course, is the 1 seed, gets the 16 seed Long Island. Their 8-9 is Villanova and Utah State. Iowa State draws Tennessee State in St. Louis. They'll get the winner of Kentucky and Santa Clara. Houston is taking on Idaho as the 2 against the 15. They will play the winner of St. Mary's A&M in Oklahoma City. Kansas, they get Cal Baptist, and if they win, they could either play Rick Pitino in St. John's or a rematch of one of the greatest basketball games ever played in northern Iowa. Wouldn't that be something? Texas Tech, they get Akron, the MAC champions, and their 4-13 in that pot is Alabama and Hofstra. BYU will take on the winner of Texas and NC State in the play-in game. If they win that, they'll have Gonzaga or Kennesaw State waiting for them. TCU gets Ohio State with Duke as the 1 seed, and Central Florida gets UCLA in the 7-10, awaiting UConn as the 2 seed. I guess just general thoughts. What draw do you like the best? Are there any draws you hate? What do you got your eye on?
I think starting with the draws that I probably like the most, just kind of going down the list here, I think the obvious one's got to be Arizona. Great draw for Arizona. Of all the Big 12 teams, I think they've got the easiest path, but they've also earned it with that 1 seed. You win the Big 12 regular season title, you win the Big 12 tournament title, they're going to blow past Long Island, and they're probably going to beat the winner of Villanova and Utah State there, and probably going to face Wisconsin, if I had to guess, there in the Sweet 16. And I will say Wisconsin is kind of a dangerous team for a 5 seed, but I think Arizona by far is the alpha dog in that West region. Anything short of a Final Four for Arizona with this particular bracket, to me, would be a disappointment.
Yeah, and they probably have the most pressure of anyone in the entire field.
True.
From their fans.
That's true.
No, Duke Duke went to a Final Four last year. They expect Duke to win a national championship every time they're in the tournament, but Arizona's drought right now is insane, and they've had some bad upsets. Their fans don't care about making a Sweet 16. They're not even focused on that at all. They're looking beyond that. So I think Arizona, which that might hurt them, they kind of have a similar burden on their back as Purdue had before they made that national championship run and lost to UConn. It's maybe not that exact level, but it feels similar just talking to some U of A people while I was down there in Tucson and while I was around some media folks in Kansas City.
Well, the thing is, for Arizona, you just went through the Big 12 gauntlet, and you just won the tournament. You faced literally the best the Big 12 has had to offer, and you ran through it. So I don't see any reason for a slip-up out of this West region, to me. Now, obviously, it would be disappointing if they don't get there, but to me, they are by far the heavy favorite to come out of this West region. I don't even think it's close, to be honest with you.
Yeah, their draw to me is weird because, yes, I do think they probably got the weakest region overall. I still think they maybe got the best 4 and the best 5. Maybe not best, but most dangerous. If I'm Arizona, I'm not afraid of anyone, but I would not want to see Darius Acuff in Arkansas in the Sweet 16 because that's a game where you don't have the best player on the floor. In Wisconsin, I wouldn't be shocked at all if they didn't make the Sweet 16, but if they get there, they're one of those teams that has been about as good as anybody against good teams. They're very similar to Texas Tech in that regard, where they've got a win at Michigan, they've got a win at Illinois, they've got a win at Purdue. They dismantled Michigan State at home. But they've also proven that they can lose to any. They lost to BYU by 30. They lost to TCU by double digits. They lost to Indiana, who's not good in overtime. They lost at Oregon. So it's a weird thing, and they, of course, just took Michigan down to the wire. So I almost think, regardless of who Arizona could potentially play in the Elite Eight, I'm more afraid of their Sweet 16 matchup than anything.
Oh, yeah. 100%. That's why I said I think Wisconsin will be a very tricky 5 seed. And you're right. Arkansas, fresh off that SEC tournament win. So they are dangerous. But again, I still think Arizona is the head of the class out of this West region.
They're favored.
They got the one right next to their name for a reason.
Haven't been to a Final Four since the year 2001, which seems unbelievable for a program that's had as much talent as they've had, and they've been a top seed so many different times. That's where I think the frustration is rooted from their fan base. But they love this team, and rightfully so. They should. This team has been unbelievable this year. They didn't lose in the non-conference. They lost a game at home against Texas Tech where Tech went nuclear from 3 and Arizona led most of the way. And then they lost a game at Allen Fieldhouse that I don't know if the 1996 Bulls would have won that game. That place was so on fire that night. They've been through the ringer. They just beat Iowa State in a game where they couldn't have gotten outplayed more in the first 10 minutes and still found a way to win it. I trust Arizona regardless of who they get 2 through 16 in this entire bracket.
Yeah, another one I loved, it's got to be Iowa State. For a 2 seed, I don't think you could ask for a better draw. You're not playing too far away in St. Louis. You probably get Kentucky in the second round, which I believe Iowa State is head and shoulders better than Kentucky. Then you're going to play probably, Tennessee or Virginia. And again, if that Iowa State team that showed up against Arizona comes to play, they could make an Elite Eight run with the potential showdown against Michigan later down the road. So I really, really like the draw. Out of all the 2 seeds in the tournament, I think Iowa State's probably got the best draw out of any of the 2 seeds.
Yeah, especially to get out of the first weekend. I think they've got the best. And then you throw on top of it the Tennessee, Virginia, potential SMU or Miami, Ohio. I just like Iowa State in those matchups. When you see these teams and you see potential matchups down the road, for me, I would always worry about seeing a team like Illinois, who is prolific offensively, can make 23s in a game, similar to a BYU, similar to what Texas Tech did at Hilton Coliseum. And yes, Virginia is really efficient at shooting threes, and they certainly are not they're not the Tony Bennett Virginia like they used to be, even though they still play slow. They don't play the slowest in the country. So I feel a little bit better about that matchup than, say, seeing an Illinois in that spot.
Yeah, are there any more that you really, really love? I'm kind of going down the list here, looking at the teams. I think maybe just as my last toss-up here, I think BYU could be set up for a nice little run. You mentioned they're going to play the winner of NC State and Texas.
Yeah.
I think they could maybe make a run. And
Texas, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever to see BYU get knocked off because...
See, I think they're better than both Texas and NC State.
Yeah, but they were better than West Virginia. They're better than Cincinnati. I still don't trust them enough. I like how they played in Kansas City, and I love AJ DeBanza, and I'm not going to pick against them. And I certainly wouldn't be shocked to see DeBanza carry them to the Elite Eight
I wouldn't either.
With how good of a player he is. But I'm still concerned about the defense because you give up 91 to K-State in Kansas City. You play Houston tough. It never really felt like they were going to win that game, but they absolutely played them tough. I think they're capable of a run, but they're also volatile. And they haven't really had success in the NCAA tournament recently. They've been a team that's gotten hot towards the end of the year and fizzled off as soon as the NCAA tournament starts. So this is maybe the year when no matter who you play, you're going to have the best player on the court. You could make the Elite Eight and you're still going to have the best player on the court. Now, Arizona's going to have more depth if you can get there. But my point is, I don't have a feel on BYU yet. It's weird. Texas is playing well.
Probably the biggest boom or bust team out of the Big 12. They're either going to lose opening round or they're going to make it to the Sweet 16 or go to the Elite Eight. I don't think there's any in between for BYU.
Yeah, I would. That's what how I feel. I'd throw Tech in that conversation as well.
Yeah, playing Akron right off the bat. I know
Akron's good.
Akron's pretty good, better than what people think. And then If you win that, you're probably looking at Alabama, which is also a pretty tough matchup for Texas Tech. And then you're also on the same side of Michigan, too. So if you somehow slip past the first 2 rounds, you're going to be staring at a battle with Michigan. And I can't feel confident in saying, yeah, Texas Tech's going to get past the Sweet 16, even if everything goes their way. They're not making it past the Sweet 16.
What I like about Tech is how they've played up to their competition this year. And it sucks that we won't get to see him with JT Toppin. I would love for them to get a crack at Michigan with their best player. But I would agree with you. I'd be stunned if they made it past the Sweet 16. But if they can get past Akron, I like them against Bama. I like them against Hofstra. To me, Tech seems like a team that if the other side wants to go shot for shot, let's go. Let's party. Because I like Christian Anderson, Donovan Atwell. I like those guys and their ability to hit down threes as good as anybody, even though that would traditionally be Alabama's brand. So I do like Tech to get out of the first weekend, but Akron's scary. That team's super athletic. Yeah. That team is super efficient offensively. They've been better. I know Miami, Ohio beat them. Akron has been better analytically all year than Miami, Ohio coming out of the MAC. So that is not an easy matchup for Texas Tech, and I will admit it's probably the scariest 12 seed that they could have drawn, just based off of how good of a shot-making team they are.
Yeah, and I think for the other games here, the other teams that made it for the Big 12, I think they're probably in a lot tougher situation. I'm looking at Houston, even as a 2 seed. I thought Houston got a way worse draw than Iowa State did. I mean, Idaho should be a cakewalk, but then you get St. Mary's or Texas A&M, I think, which will be either one of those matchups will be tough. And then you get past that, you're staring right down North Carolina or Illinois. And you talked about Illinois a while ago. I don't know if I trust this Houston team enough to go game for game with some of these teams, because the inconsistencies we've seen from Houston this year, I think, is a little bit concerning. I just don't know if they're going to be able to keep it up if their shots don't fall. If Kingston Flemings doesn't have his A game in one of these tournament games, that's what kind of scares me for Houston.
Yeah, what scares me about Houston is if they make the Elite Eight. That matchup with Florida. Florida's so big, and we already know Houston struggles at getting to the rim against anybody. And it would be that much more difficult against Florida. And I think we've seen Houston really struggle to match up with Arizona. And Arizona would be a pretty similar matchup as Florida. As far as potentially playing Illinois in the Sweet 16, I love how tough Houston is. And that's where Illinois has had some problems this year with teams uglying up against them and in making it super physical and trying to out-rebound them and beat them down low. And that's where I don't completely hate the matchup, but Illinois is also one of the best offenses we've seen in the history of KenPom. They're one of the most efficient offenses in probably the last 20 years for college basketball, but they do have a freshman who leads the way, Keaton Wagler. And I like Keaton Wagler a lot. I like Kingston Flemings more. So I still trust Kelvin Sampson to make an Elite Eight, especially with, of course, the chalk path in his way. But you're right. Getting in Florida's region is really tough. I would have liked more if they were in Duke's region.
Yeah.
Or, Michigan as well, I believe. I think both of those would have been better matchups for them than Florida. But we'll see. It's Kelvin Sampson.
How do you feel about Kansas? I thought they got a pretty interesting draw.
I'm glad you asked, because that's my Freedom Tire Who Needs a Fix. And I actually don't mind Kansas in their draw. I just don't love Kansas right now. And I'll tell you why they need a fix. First, let me tell you about our friends at Freedom Tire. They always present Who Needs a Fix. They've got locations in Altoona, Ames, Des Moines, West Des Moines, Urbandale. If you're going down to St. Louis this week, you better stop at Freedom Tire before you go. Make sure your car's all good to go. Make sure you got some good tires. It's not a short drive, and it's not a long drive either, but it's a drive that's long enough where you really don't want to be stuck halfway on the side of the road. So hit up your local Freedom Tire. get your routine oil change, get a tire rotation, all that good stuff at your local Freedom Tire. We appreciate their support of Iowa everywhere.
Highly recommend not getting stuck in St. Louis.
Well, in St. Louis, or the problem with the drive to St. Louis,
also in the middle of nowhere too, if you're going
is it's one of the rare cities around Iowa that's drivable, that's not all interstate the entire way there. Like you're going on a lot of 2-lane county highways, especially through southeast Iowa. It's not always well lit like the interstate. It's just not the same as, say, taking a drive to Minneapolis or Chicago. So you absolutely want to hit up Freedom Tire before you go, just to be. You don't want to be stuck in Mount Pleasant. No offense. No offense to the good people in Mount Pleasant. All right, the Kansas Jayhawks. They're not right. They're not right at all. And it's like a literal month ago, we weren't convinced that Kansas wasn't the best team in the country. The way they were playing, the way Darren Peterson was finally clicking, the way Melvin Council and Flory Badunga and Trey White were playing as role player and playing not just as role players, but into their roles perfectly. And now that's all changed. They do not look like the same team. They got blown out at Arizona State to close the season. They didn't even look competitive against Houston in that game. They're just not right. And I think this Darren Peterson saga, whether fair or not, because I do think eventually we'll get a tell-all on what happened with the Darren Peterson era. And who knows? Maybe, like, I know what he was saying in the locker room. He was describing the types of cramps he was having and how hard it's been to play for him. I have no choice but to believe the young man. But even if it's true, even if it's not true, the court of public opinion decided that he was soft like halfway through, and I think that affected the team. I really do think the noise around all of it, I think the way Bill Self has handled it, the very obscure, the very non-specific way he's gone about this, I think all of it has hindered the team, and they need to make a run. It's been a long time. Their fans are getting fed up, and while I don't hate their path, I also don't love it. Like, Zuby Ejiofor is really good for St. John's, and he can neutralize what I think is Kansas' second best weapon in Flory Badunga down low. They've got really athletic wings that you can just throw at Darren Peterson, throw at Melvin Council all game long. Or who knows, maybe they get you and I and they have to fight some demons from over 15 years ago. I think when you throw a player like Darren Peterson on this team, and I know it hasn't been right for him. I know he's not been healthy enough to be the player that we all thought he would be. I really would have thought this Kansas team would have had more of a chance to win a national championship, and right now it seems like absolute best case scenario, you find a way to knock off Duke and try and get to an Elite Eight, and that seems really unlikely to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not seeing it. I think we've seen flashes of what this Kansas team can do this season, but it's just not been consistent. At one point, I think you could make an argument that they were the hottest team in the Big 12. Would they rip out like 8 wins in a row or something like that? It was some absurd win streak that they had there.
They went on the pedestrian curse win streak. As soon as I called them pedestrian, they won 8 games in a row, including a blowout win against Iowa State.
Yeah.
A win against Arizona, handing them their first loss. A win at Texas Tech.
That team would make a run. This Kansas team right now, I don't feel confident. In fact, I was looking at their bracket, and I look at that St. John's matchup. I do not like that matchup at all. I honestly would have a hard time, if I'm filling out a bracket, I would have a hard time putting Kansas past St. John at this point.
I guess maybe the reason that I initially said that I didn't hate the draw was because I fully anticipated them playing Arkansas. Like it seems every year they try and find the Self Calipari, and Arkansas has proven to be a really bad matchup for Kansas in the past. So maybe I saw the draw and immediately said, "Oh, no Arkansas. I don't mind it." But yeah, the St. John's draw, that's a 4 seed. That's maybe even a 3 seed. and they're disguised as a 5 seed. I hate it for my brothers up in Cedar Falls. Got a lot of really good friends that went to UNI or are UNI fans, and I would be pretty surprised if St. John's didn't make it out of that region.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think St. John's, and even if you get out of that region, I mean, you're looking at Duke, and nobody's beating Duke. And nobody from that region's beating Duke.
But it's Bill Self.
You'd see Kansas making it to
No, I'm not saying that.
Because
I'm just saying what if. I'm just saying what if. It's Bill Self.
There's a lot of what ifs in this world. I'm not going to say what if. I hate that.
I'm just saying I've learned my lesson.
What if I win the lottery and I quit my day job and everything? Exactly. Woohoo! But
I'm just saying I've learned my lesson. I took my medicine. I went online and I declared Kansas as pedestrian. And I was wrong for 8 straight games. I was dead wrong.
You're trying to get a boost.
Man, I was wrong that night. And I feel confident enough in my knowledge of the Big 12, the teams within this league, the talent on each roster, to declare what would be tough. And I do think it would be tough for Kansas to not only make the Sweet 16, it'd be really, really tough for them to go beyond that. But I would also be a fool if I blindly counted Bill Self out.
So are you slapping Bill Self in the face and telling him his team is pedestrian right now, so you're going to give him a bump or a boost?
I'll say this. If we pull up the national championship odds, and I've got to pick a team that's outside the top 10 or outside the 15 and say, okay, who's got the biggest chance to have a Kemba Walker type run? I'm throwing AJ DeBanza on there with BYU.
That'd be my pick, yeah.
I'm throwing Nick Boyd in there with Wisconsin. Throwing Darius Aclough in there with Arkansas.
Good pick.
I'm throwing Kansas with Darren Peterson in there as well. Darren, look, just wait. Easy. Darren Peterson has been playing more minutes. There's no doubt about it. And he has been not great in those minutes, not as great as he was earlier in the season, but he's playing. He just played 28 minutes against Houston, and they got blown out in that game, so I think if it was close, he would have gone the full 40. Played 37 against TCU. He didn't play great, but that's okay. Played 30 against K-State. Played 35 against Arizona State. Played 30 against Arizona. 30-30. You get my point. He's actually playing now.
But you just said he's not playing great.
But that can... I still think he's going to be an NBA All-Star. I think that can change on a dime. Freshmen figure things out at weird times. Did you expect Killian Torrey to figure it out against Arizona of all teams when he did? I'm just saying if he flips a switch in the NCAA tournament and suddenly looks like the best player in the country again like he did at Lubbock, I won't be stunned. That's my case for Kansas.
I'm not buying in.
We did this segment on Who Needs a Fix, and I chose Kansas, and by the end of it, I'm defending Kansas. That's how much you hate the Jayhawks. That's how much you don't believe in Bill Self.
I don't like the matchup. I don't like the draw. I don't think they're, if I'm filling out a bracket, which I am going to do probably tomorrow, I'm not going to put them past St. John's. I'm not.
Well, how about this? Kansas took Duke to the wire without Darren Peterson. And Duke, that's a team that's reeling. And let's talk about TCU. Because if TCU can get past the mighty Ohio State Buckeyes, they can beat Duke. I promise you. I promise they can beat Duke. I promise. Now, I think they'll lose to Ohio State because that's how Jamie Dixon goes. But if they can overcome all the odds and win their 8-9 game, they can beat Duke. I promise.
Boy, that makes me feel really confident about the Horned Frogs. Yeah, No, they're not getting past Ohio State. They'll be lucky to get past Ohio State. Okay. And if they do get past Ohio State, they are not beating Duke.
TCU,
no chance.
Their losses this year. Michigan, at Kansas in overtime. They were in it against Arizona at home. They lose in a close game at home against Houston. They beat Iowa State. They've won at Texas
at
Tech.
home, without Toppin.
They beat the hottest team in the country, Cincinnati, to close the year. They win 6 straight games to end the year. They play up to their competition. They play down to their competition. They would have beat Kansas in the T-Mobile Center if the refs weren't rigged against TCU. I promise they would have won that game. That was a pathetic display of officiating. I'm just saying, and Duke is reeling. Duke lost their starting point guard for the season. Duke played in a mid-major conference all year long. And yes, Boozer's awesome. He deserves to be the National Player of the Year. But the fact that Duke has suddenly been put on this pedestal above Arizona is absurd to me and ridiculous. And I'm just saying, TCU has seen a lot of teams like Duke. They've played Iowa State, they've played Houston, and they've played Arizona. They won't be caught off guard, but they'll lose to Ohio State.
That's how you end it. They'll lose to Ohio State.
Yeah,
you're right. I don't think anybody's putting Duke. Oh, maybe the national media, but I'm not putting Duke way ahead of Arizona. So let's throw that argument out.
I know.
Window.
Well, I'm saying in general, not you.
And the games that you mentioned that they beat these teams outside of the one in Lubbock, have all those big wins were all in Fort Worth. And I'm looking at that matchup with Ohio State. The last time I checked, Greenville,
they literally
South Carolina.
they won at Baylor. Baylor recently won a national championship.
Oh, God. The last time I checked, Greenville, South Carolina is not Fort Worth, Texas. I may be wrong on that, but the last time I went, it was not. So,
have you ever been?
I have been to Greenville, South Carolina, and I've also been to Fort Worth, Texas many times, yes.
I was just going to say, don't judge until you've been.
Not feeling good about TCU's chances at all. If they get past Ohio State and they get past Duke, you might as well punch them in the Final Four.
All I'm saying.
No way.
All I'm saying.
Better chance of me staying sober on a Friday night than TCU getting the Sweet 16.
Okay. Let's be respectful to Jamie Dixon. They've got a higher than a 1% chance of doing that.
I don't know. Not seeing it.
All I'm saying, if there's an 8-9 upset, it's TCU. Because Iowa's not beating Florida. Clemson isn't beating Florida. Arizona is not losing.
Iowa's not beating Florida? What?
No.
Oh.
No, they're not.
Just checking.
Arizona's not losing, and I wouldn't love picking against Michigan, but I suppose crazier things have happened. But they're not going to lose to Georgia or St. Louis, I don't think.
No.
If there's one 8-9 team that has actually proven to go the distance, not just once, like that. This isn't, and I'm not even being a jerk hating on Iowa. Iowa having one close game at home against Michigan is not the same as TCU beating Iowa State, being close against Houston, being close against Arizona, being close against Michigan.
Well, Iowa fans would say you sound like a jerk right now.
Well, that's fine. That's their opinion. I'm just saying of those 8 teams, because it won't be Ohio State. Ohio State's not beating Duke either. Of those 8 teams in the 8-9 game, if you're forcing me against my will to bet $100 on one of those things to happen, I would bet on TCU to beat Duke. Fair enough?
Sure. If you like throwing money away, lighting it on fire.
Well, you're holding me against my will, forcing me to do it.
If somebody's holding you against your will, I don't think they'd be asking about TCU basketball.
Do you know anything about a hypothetical question?
I do.
Is this your first day on the podcast? Okay, so if I won the Iowa lottery, and I became a millionaire for life, I think the first thing I'd do is I'd throw $1 million on TCU to the Sweet 16. Just kidding. That would be very irresponsible. It's a joke.
You wouldn't buy the jar of pickles like
if
the girl in the thing?
If you are lucky enough to become a millionaire for life with the Iowa lottery, you should invest almost all of that money. Maybe buy yourself a nice car or something before and then invest the rest. The Iowa lottery is making someone a millionaire for life as well as a secondary prize if you can become a 100,000-aire for life, which it doesn't sound as good as a millionaire, but
pretty good.
Sounds better than making nothing for life. The Iowa lottery, IA lottery, woo! They're great partners with Iowa Everywhere. It's hard to say Iowa Everywhere, Iowa lottery back to back a bunch of different times. I trip up on my words.
Say it 5 times.
Let's talk about Central Florida, or UCF. Sorry.
Put some respect on it, yeah. You got to say it now since they made the tournament. You can't say Central Florida anymore.
Gosh, they tried their absolute hardest to not make the NCAA tournament.
They did.
They pulled
it off.
A brutal end of the season for the Knights. But they get UCLA, and I don't love their matchup, I'll be honest. I would use the word stunned if they were able to get past UCLA. I think UCLA is one of the hottest teams in the country. The good news for UCF, UCLA is banged up. Donovan Dent hurt his lower leg and did not play in the second half against Purdue. So if you want to make some sort of silver lining, it's maybe they're catching a beat-up UCLA team. But I know from an Iowa State perspective, the team I did not want to see on the 7 line, it was UCLA and it was Louisville. And luckily Iowa State avoided both of them. They're not playing good enough. UCF right now is playing like an NIT team. They played like an NIT team in Kansas City. They were playing like that before. This team was on a golden path to go be a 7 seed. They could have maybe even gotten up to the 6 line if they continued to win, and they closed the year with home losses against Bay State and then got blown out at West Virginia. I don't love the trajectory of this team. I like how they can score, and who knows, maybe if they can get past UCLA, all it takes in a 7-10 matchup is for a team to get stupid hot and can't miss, kind of like they did against Texas Tech at home. And I think UConn's the weakest of all the 2 seeds, but I really think that favors UCLA way more than it does UCF.
I just feel like UCF's kind of like TCU, just a different team when they're not playing at home, and you're right. They ended the season awfully. They were just so bad down the stretch. I questioned if they were even going to make the damn tournament, but you're right. If I had to pick one team, one Big 12 team to get knocked out opening round, I think it's UCF, and it's not even close.
It's a bold
take.
take.
Not even close.
Picking against your team like that?
Even if they somehow knocked off UCLA, would you say they're better than UConn, or they have any chance of beating UConn? Because I don't see it.
I mean, I personally, I would give them about as good of a chance as beating UConn as they would UCLA. If they're able to get past UCLA, I think they would have just as good of a chance as doing it again.
But getting past both of them, there's no way.
Yeah, I would put like a 20% chance on them getting past UCLA, and if they made it to that game, probably another 20% chance of getting past UConn.
That's a lot of 20% chances.
They're really fortunate that they had a couple of nice wins against Tech or Kansas, and they're fortunate the bubble's terrible this year because they did not do themselves any favor down the stretch of the season.
Not at all.
So, what do you think is going to happen? Like, how many teams do you think make the second weekend out of the conference? How many teams are in the Final Four? What's realistic to expect?
I'm going to tell you UCF's not making it past opening weekend. TCU's not making it past opening weekend.
Wow, we got Skip Bayless over here. Hot take after hot take.
I'm going to keep them rolling, baby. Give me I'll say this. I think BYU is actually going to get out of opening weekend.
All right, there's a hot take. I like it.
I think Iowa State's going to get past opening weekend, and I think Arizona is going to get past opening weekend. So I think...
No Houston?
I'm not done. I'll throw in Houston. So Arizona, Houston, Iowa State, BYU are my 4 teams that are going to make it to the Sweet 16.
Give me those same 4 and...
Add TCU?
No. Give me those 4 and then just one of Kansas or Texas Tech.
If gun to my head, I would say Texas Tech over Kansas if I'm picking one of those teams to go to the Sweet 16.
You know what? Give me Kansas.
Okay.
I'm digging in. Give me my boy Bill. I'll go 5 teams.
Going right against what I'm saying. Okay, you got 5 teams. I got 4.
Okay.
Then we'll go from there.
Yeah, Elite 8. How many in the Elite 8?
Or we're just going to keep going down the line?
Yeah.
Arizona is gonna. Arizona's going to go to the Final Four. That's the one team I can feel confident saying they are going to go to the Final Four.
Should we play a game? Should we do a draft? Didn't we do a draft last year?
You know what we should do? We should do a damn bracket. We need like a bigger than 12 bracket is what we should do.
Okay. Do you want first or second pick?
We need Aiden's lucky coin.
Yeah, Aiden, get the coin ready.
Not the digital
Give
coin.
me 1 second. Yeah.
I don't want to see
We'll
that
do the
damn
coin
digital
thing.
coin again.
This is live podcasting right here. So this is how we're going to do this. Aiden's going to flip a coin. Derek's going to call it in the air. Old-fashioned coin calling game.
All right. Heads. It's upside down, but it's heads. Tails. It's the arches. Pretty
And
cool
this is for if you get choice. If you get it right.
Okay. Derek is calling it?
Yep, Derek's calling it. If he's wrong, I get the choice.
Tails.
It is tails.
Okay, so you get a choice, but wait until I describe the rules first. So, the way we're doing this, you get a draft. So we'll do a draft. There's 8 teams in the tournament, so we'll each pick 4 teams. But you get the amount of points per win, but it's their seed number. So if TCU wins a game, you get 9 points. If they win 2 games, they get 18 points. If Arizona wins 5 games, they get 5 points for you. Okay, you got it?
I got it.
I just came up with that on the fly.
Are we just picking 1 and 1? Like I go, you go, or are you picking?
No. So you get a pick, first or second pick, snake draft. So if you pick the second, if you get second, then you get the second and third pick, back and forth.
I'll pick BYU first. I'm going for the second.
Okay, so you're just taking the first pick. Okay. Yeah. I will take. Whew, this is tough. Why did I come up with this game? So unprepared.
I like my pick.
Gosh, this is hard. I mean, I'll take TCU out of value. 1 win gets you 9 points. And I will take Texas Tech.
Okay. Do I get 2 picks now?
Yeah, you get 2 picks.
Give me Kansas and Iowa State.
Dang it. Okay. So I was going to pick. So I'll take
my team so far.
I'll take Houston and Arizona.
Woo! Woohoo!
So you get the Central Florida Knights. UCF, sorry.
Woohoo! Well, they're not going to win. That's why I took BYU. I had to take BYU.
So there you have it. You get BYU, Iowa State, Kansas, UCF. I've got Texas Tech, TCU, Houston, and Arizona. But the problem is Arizona.
TCU's going to screw you right off the bat.
Just wait. All they need is 1 game, and that is the equivalent to Iowa State going to the Final Four.
Until BYU makes like a Sweet 16 run, then you're screwed.
I know that BYU's probably the smart first pick.
Yep.
But who knows? Texas Tech could make a Sweet 16. All right, that's a lot of bracket talk. Is it enough bracket talk?
We need like a bigger than 12 bracket. I think we should do that.
Okay, you're on that. I've got enough on my plate.
I'll try to get it going. I'll see what I can do.
It's not that hard to make a bracket group. We might be doing an Iowa Everywhere. Aiden, are we doing an Iowa Everywhere bracket group?
I was going to talk to you after the show, actually. So
okay.
Talk to Van Winkle.
There you go.
No, I guess I'll do it. Got to do everything. Got to do everything in this freaking company.
Well, welcome to life. We need Aiden back in here.
Why do we need Aiden here?
Iowa trivia.
That's right.
All right, we are recording on Selection Sunday. Derek Duke, true or false?
How much does
Iowa
Selection
State
Sunday weigh?
Yeah, you're right. Iowa State, Iowa, Drake, and Northern Iowa, the 4 Division I programs in Iowa. True or false, have they all made the NCAA tournament in the same year, ever?
Oh.
You got a 50-50 shot here.
It's like flipping a coin. Heads or tails?
Yeah, you're 1 for 1 tonight.
I know. I'm probably going to go 1 for 2 because I feel like the obvious answer would be true, but at the same time, it would not surprise me if the stars didn't align. So I'm going to say false.
It's got to be false, right?
It's false.
Okay.
Yep.
There we go.
I was thinking the only year it would have even been feasible would have been 2008, but Iowa State didn't make it then. And I don't even know if you and I made it. That's just when you and I
made it that year.
It's like the only time in our life, other than recent memory, but I know that you and I had made the tournament in 10 years. It's like the only time in our life where Drake and you and I were both good at the same time.
It's so hard, too, because they're in the same conference. So now that the Missouri Valley, while I don't agree with it, seems to be a one-bid league these days, it might not ever happen where they both get in, unfortunately.
That's my biggest gripe with college basketball is just there's too many one-bid leagues that there are leagues out there that deserve
it's
more
nonsense.
than one team.
Yeah,
I'll never understand that. That's the one thing holding this sport back.
I agree with you.
One of them, not the one thing.
It's not a good time. Not a good time at all when these poor leagues only get one bid. But if you're down in the dumps about it, I know where you can find a good time.
Looking for a good time? Thought so. Whiskey River is just the place. We've got the booze, the food, the vibe, and the amazing rooftop patio. The only thing missing is you. Whiskey River.
Man, there's sometimes Aiden is right on it, and he makes that transition from good time to looking for a good time like no other. And sometimes we're just sitting here for 2 seconds looking like morons.
Was that one of those times?
I think so.
I was going to cut you off, and then you kept talking.
just cut him off.
I'll get more
like
creative with it.
I don't. It's like a zone read on offense. It's very much a feel and a rhythm thing. Yeah. So we're not perfect all the time, but Whiskey River, that's a place that's perfect all the time. Great burgers. My gosh. Like really, really good burgers. I've never been disappointed. Cold beer. What else could you want? Comfy chairs, big TVs. It would be an incredible place to be glued to a chair for the next 96 hours starting Thursday morning. So hit up Whiskey River and ain't any more names. It's always a good time. And they always bring us our power rankings. Starting with the Big 12 champs, regular season and postseason. It's Arizona. I'm going to Iowa State. For me, this shifted as like who's playing the best right now to who do I have the most confidence in making a run in the NCAA tournament. And that's Iowa State. I would be more surprised to see Houston in the Final Four at this point than I would Iowa State. Not by much. I think it's a slight edge, but I'll give Iowa State the edge over Houston. Then it's a far drop off to number 4. I think there's a clear-cut top 3 in this conference. 4, 5, 6, even 7. Throw TCU in that mix. I think are all about as close as they've been all season from a 4 through 7 standpoint. But I'll go Texas Tech based off of the guard play. Guard play wins in March. Christian Anderson is the most trustworthy guard of that bunch. And then I'll go Kansas. Slight edge over BYU. I still trust their defense more. Guys like Flory Badunga pretty much show up every single game, rim protection, rebounding, whereas BYU, I have no doubt AJ DeMonts is going to show up. I don't know if Rob Wright, Kennard Davis, and Kevin Kaida are going to show up, so I'll give Kansas my 5 spot.
Put a lot of stock in the Big 12 tournament, I see, which is fair. Which is definitely fair. Not too far off from you, but I've got, of course, Arizona at my top spot. That's a given. Winning the Big 12 regular season title, conference tournament. So clearly the number 1 team there. I kept Houston at 2. Still a really damn good team. I mean, if Arizona wasn't Arizona this year, Houston would have been the conference champion. Still a really good team. I think Houston, if you put them in some of the other conferences out there, they would have been the conference champion of that conference. Iowa State at 3. I did put a little bit of stock from the Big 12 tournament in my pick as well, so I put the Cyclones there at 3, and I think they're set up for a really, really big run here in the NCAA tournament. Kansas at 4. Not loving Kansas, but I feel like they are better than Texas Tech right now, personally. I don't love either draw for Kansas or Texas Tech, who's going to be at my number 5 spot. Probably interchangeable for me. If you want to put Texas Tech ahead of Kansas, I'd have no issue with that at all. But I think Arizona, Houston, Iowa State have to be your top 3 teams. And, Houston and Iowa State are, of course, interchangeable.
Yeah, they're close. I can get behind that list. We're pretty similar. I could also go for a carbless. Very refreshing. It's a very refreshing drink. And carbless brings us our refreshing take of the week. Look at how that works. Carbless, it's a blizzard. I don't know if you can hear it over my mic. It is like 45-degree wind right now. I wouldn't be stunned if my trash can was 3 miles away.
It's funny. I can hear your wind, and I can also hear the wind against this window here because it's also very windy.
I know. It's insane. So it doesn't feel like carbless weather right now, but it's going to be 70s this weekend for the NCAA tournament. So that will be carbless weather. Grab yourself a 4-pack of your favorite carbless and sit at home and watch the NCAA tournament, or grab a carbless at Whiskey River. Wherever you watch the NCAA tournament, there should be carbless in your hand. And my refreshing take is the commish. Mr. Brett Yormark himself. Yes, Yormark he's an interesting cat. He's not afraid to go outside the box. He's not afraid to make people angry. He's not afraid to be questioned on the esteemed Bigger Than 12 podcast on the Iowa Everywhere Network. He's bold. I'll give him that. And I don't know if he's ever been more bold than his decision to move to a glass court. And while I completely disagree with not having, trying to do a mid-season tournament with this or play a couple exhibition games in the non-con with this court before it was on full display for the Big 12 tournament, I do commend him for making the right call and switching the court mid-tournament. I even put out a tweet and I said that this has to be it. You can't do another year on this court. It's a failed experiment. It's not safe. It's affecting the gameplay. You have to switch it next year. And people in my comments said, next game. And while I'd agree with that sentiment, I didn't think it was realistic to switch the court overnight. And Yormark proved me wrong. He took the feedback from the coaches, the players, the fans, the media, and he made the right decision. And I commend him. This is a money thing. The Big 12 is behind the SEC and the Big 10. They've got to find other ways to make profit. And this, I do believe, in 10 or 15 years will be a thing. I don't know if every single basketball court in the world will be glass, but I think there will be a lot more glass courts than just the Big 12 tournament. And I commend him for being early on it, but now's not the time. The technology's not right. And I commend him for changing the court midweek because it's really easy to die on a hill. It's really easy to be stubborn and not back down. But coaches and players were publicly complaining about it, and he listened, and he made the switch. So, kudos to you, Mr. Yormark.
That was nice. That was really nice. But what would be nicer is after you and Brett Yormark are done drinking your carbless, I'm going to pick y'all's asses up, and I'm taking you both to Freedom Tire. Because both y'all need a fix.
What do I need a fix for?
Look. Brett Yormark I've said this for years now, he's an outside-of-the-box thinker. He's exactly the kind of the guy the Big 12 needs. And you're right, we're behind the SEC and the Big 10. That's no secret. But in basketball, the Big 12 is the best conference in America, hands down. And sometimes you don't need to mess around with certain things. If your product is that good, you have the best-selling product in America, which is Big 12 basketball. You don't need all the glitz and the glamour when it comes to the play on the court. If you want to do that in the Power and Light District, if you want to have Shaq out there throwing records around or DJ Khaled,
Diesel.
Whatever you want to do, by all means do it. Have a freaking big party. Have a 5-day party outside. The Big 12 Eats thing, that's great. The drinks, the sundaes, I saw it all in Kansas City. I was not there, but I saw it all. Kansas City is also, by the way, the perfect place to keep the tournament, but I'll get to that conversation here in a minute. For Brett Yormark in the Big 12, to not test this court out prior to your biggest, like this is your Super Bowl, your playoffs, where it all comes together for everything in the Big 12 right before the NCAA tournament, by the way. And if player safety is an issue, that has got to be the most, by far, the number one thing you have to do is protect your coaches, protect your players, protect the product at all costs. And if you're creating an environment that is unsafe for your players, for your coaches, whoever it may be, where guys are getting hurt, they're saying something's off, it's slippery, it's slick, hey, it's not right now, you're right. I credit him for making the change because it took a lot of balls to admit you're wrong and make that change overnight. So I will give him full credit for that. He said he fucked up, he knows it, he changed it, he fixed it. But we didn't need to get to that point this year. You should have tested it out in an exhibition game, have a preseason game, a scrimmage, do something on this court. I mean, you can't just roll out this brand new court and say, well, I hope it works. Like hope is not a tactic. It is a flawed way of thinking. It never has been a tactic. It is just, it's hope. And that's what you are hoping for is with that court was hope. You are hoping nobody gets hurt. You're hoping nobody complained. When in reality, you had all the tools, you had all the money, the time, the resources, the research to get it right before you rolled the product out, and you didn't. So to me, that was a really bad look for the Big 12, and unfortunately, I think the court thing overshadowed what actually went down in Kansas City, which I am going to switch over now, probably a back-to-back, first time that's ever been done. I'm going to go from Freedom Tire back to Carbless.
Carbless, Freedom Tire, Carbless, right here in the Channel Seed Studios on Bigger Than 12, brought to you by WealthCharter. Look at that.
That is going to be that the tournament needs to stay in Kansas City. And I know there were a lot of people bitching about, it needs to move to Vegas. I saw people from Arizona saying, hey, we're the king of the Big 12. We think it should move closer to Arizona, to Tucson. Hey, why don't we rotate the Big 12 tournament? Why don't we put it in Vegas? But I think what makes the Big 12 tournament so special, and Jake, you can attest to this because you've been there plenty of times. I personally, I've been to Kansas City many times. I've not been to the Big 12 tournament by itself, but Kansas City is one of my top three most underrated cities in all of America. It is a fantastic city to go to. Wonderful people, great food, beer, you name it. There's all kinds of things to do in and around Kansas City. But I think what makes the Big 12 tournament so special is that Kansas City is literally the home of Big 12 basketball. Like, it's there for a reason. It's been there for a reason. I hope it stays there forever. That city just lights and glows up anytime the Big 12 teams are in town. And you saw pictures of it throughout the week. I know Iowa State fans, of course, a lot of the guys or a lot of people that are listening to this show were probably down in Kansas City having a few beers, having a great time. Man, I saw the photos. Jake, you lived it. I mean, it was an unbelievable scene. I had so much FOMO all the way down here in Texas, it was unreal. Like, it makes me want to book my ticket to Kansas City next year.
Go. You got to do it.
How bad I want to go after seeing all the pictures and seeing what all, and the guys I work with over at Heartland College Sports, they're covering the Big 12 tournament every single year. They love it. They have nothing but great things to say about it. So for me personally, if you're one of those people who are saying, hey, it needs to be moved, I think it should move to Vegas or move here or there, before you do that, before you say that, I would suggest go to Kansas City, experience it for yourself, and see what it's all about before you want to say you want to change it.
I can assure you that there is no shot in any other conference, in any other city, in any other arena, that there could be as good of an atmosphere for an 11:30 game in the quarterfinals as there was for Iowa State and Texas Tech on Thursday morning. That place was unbelievable. It was on fire, and I couldn't agree more. You can't move this tournament from Kansas City. You want to be the coast-to-coast conference. You want to go from the metropolis of Morgantown, West Virginia, all the way to Tucson, Arizona. You got to put the tournament in the middle there. Like, you're the Heartland Conference. Yes, you go northeast with Cincinnati. Northeast of the Midwest, I guess, would be more accurate for Cincinnati. All the way down to the southeast with UCF, to the Rocky Mountains, UCF, or not UCF, Utah, BYU, Colorado, to the desert, everything in between. It's in between, and that's what Kansas City is. It's the middle of everything. And yeah, Iowa State and Kansas are closer than everyone else. They're also two of the best fan bases in the Big 12. If you moved out to Las Vegas, I have no doubt Arizona and BYU fans would show up and we'd be right back in the same place we started. You'd have a lot of other teams complaining, why is it not the same? And the difference between the two is not even close to me. If there is a Big 12 tournament in Las Vegas, how many other things are going on in Las Vegas that you can do out there? You can go to the casino. Who's performing in the Sphere? Probably Michael Jackson. I don't know. Probably the Beatles. There's 100. Oh, he is? My bad. There's 100 other things you can do in Las Vegas at any given moment. And nothing against Kansas City. There's a lot to do in Kansas City, but Kansas City is aware of this. Their mayor, their businesses are aware that there's nothing that drives business quite like the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. Don't move it. Keep it there forever. And if you disagree, I don't know, get bent.
You're right. If you put the Big 12 basketball tournament in Las Vegas, it's just another show in Vegas. When the Big 12 basketball tournament is in Kansas City, it is the show in Kansas City.
It's one of the other 12 conference tournaments that are going on in Las Vegas.
Exactly. It is the thing to do in Kansas City. It's basketball focused. Everything you do inside or outside of that arena in the Power and Light District, it's all around the game of basketball, where in Las Vegas, I think a lot of that will get lost. Now, would I go and have a good time? I love Vegas more than a lot of people probably listening out there. I go every single year. But at the same time, I would understand why you would want to keep it in Kansas City over a place like Las Vegas, where it kind of would just get lost in the mix of everything to do over there.
All right, good discussion. We got to talk about K-State. They got a new coach.
They do.
They hired Casey Alexander from Belmont. I know my good pal, friend of the program, Ema Caleb, is not too happy about this hire. I've seen K-State fans torn about this. There's no doubt that Alexander has maximized talent at Belmont and has put together a lot of really good regular seasons. The problem with the spot he's been in, whether it was the Missouri Valley or the conference they were in before, that it's essentially win your conference tournament or miss the NCAA tournament, and he hasn't really won the conference tournament a ton, only 2 times in 15 years. To me, this feels like a floor raiser of a coach looking at defensive numbers over his 15 years. I don't know if he's going to be able to recruit the type of player or put together the type of defense to be a true perennial Big 12 contender. But I think there's worse hires you can make. They clearly learned their lesson with going with an unproven Power 5 assistant, despite Jerome Tang being a national championship winning assistant coach. I don't mind going the mid-major route, and I honestly think they probably need a floor raiser right now more than anything.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not a sexy hire by any means. It's not what I would call a splash hire. This is probably like one of those safe hires where you're right. Kansas State is just trying to build some stability across the board. And I think Alexander is if I had to grade it, I don't know, a B, maybe a B+.
I was going to go B-, yeah.
It's nothing crazy. It's nothing outlandish, but I think it's a safe bet to try to at least get them back on some kind of track. And is he going to be the head coach in 5 years? I don't know, but it really can't be much worse than what we've seen with Kansas State over the last few years under Jerome Tang.
He also, staying in Belmont for as long as he did, he doesn't seem like a guy that if he has a bunch of success early will be moving on or will be looking to move on right away. So that's another benefit. Not that K-State's really had that problem. They haven't had a coach use them as a stepping stone recently. But I think right now, You can't doubt the success that K-State's had as a whole. Like, they've made 3 Elite Eights. They've won Big 12 regular season championships in the past 12 years, but they've only made the tournament a handful of times. It's like make the tournament, make a deep run to the Elite Eight, miss the tournament, miss the tournament, miss the tournament, make the tournament, make a deep run into the Elite Eight, miss the tournament, miss the tournament. They just need to make the tournament 4 years in a row. And even if you cap it at a Sweet 16 and a couple of first-round exits, that's better than what they've had recently with the super high highs and the super low lows.
A lot of lows. A lot of lows.
Cincinnati and Arizona State also move on. Not surprised in the slightest that Arizona State moved on from Bobby Hurley. I was expecting them to move on from Wes Miller at Cincinnati, but I wouldn't have been stunned if they decided to keep him the way the second half of that season went, considering how weird things were at the start of the year, not having Jizzle James. I still think it's probably the right move. They've underachieved every year he's been in the Big 12 with his team. I think both teams probably made the right decision, although I have my doubts for Arizona State. I have my doubts for how good of a job that can be.
Too much pressure from down south. I kind of said that last week. You're sitting here watching Arizona get a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and you're not going to the NCAA tournament at all. In fact, Bobby Hurley's made the NCAA tournament, once in the last 7 years?
Yeah.
Just not good enough. I don't care what program you are in the Big 12, that's not good enough. And Wes Miller, I don't know.
The thing with Arizona State, we've heard publicly a lot about their money problems, and that something that is not a foreign language to the folks up here in Ames, Iowa. The problem is the amount of money they're spending on football and the amount of times that Kenny Dillingham has publicly spoke about it. How much money are you realistically going to give to a basketball program that doesn't have a lot of historic success? They certainly don't have recent success when you are trying to fund a football program to go head-to-head with Texas Tech and BYU. Whereas Iowa State, I think they want to spend in football. I think they want to be really competitive. But I think deep down, a lot of people up here know there's not really a way to go head-to-head with Texas Tech money-wise. Whereas I don't think there is for Arizona State either, but they've at least been to the college football playoff. They were a play away from winning a game. I think it's a lot easier to sell for Kelly Dillingham down there. And it's also like, if Iowa State's basketball program right now wasn't good, I think it'd be a lot easier for the football coach to demand money. It's a lot harder for the football coach to demand money when you can go walk to Hilton Coliseum, see 15,000 people in the seats, and see the type of talent that they're going to be putting into the NBA. I think it's a lot harder to say they deserve less money. Whereas Arizona State, they haven't had success. I think it's pretty easy for Dillingham to leverage and say, who cares about basketball? Just give it all to us. And I think that's probably the spot that Arizona State's going to be in the future. I think their best bet is to find some up-and-comer who's a genius, who can play money ball and go win something with a $3 or $4 million roster.
That's exactly why I think you have to move on from Bobby Hurley. Even if you're not getting as much money, you got to find somebody else that can try to make this thing work. At least you don't have to make the tournament the first year or two. I wouldn't even say that, but at least be a little bit more competitive in some of these games. And again, I keep referring back to this, but you're looking 2 hours south and you're seeing a championship caliber program in Tucson. So that's got to be a pretty tough pill to swallow if you're in Tempe right now, or you're at least a basketball fan of Arizona State. So something had to change there. And then with Wes Miller, I thought he could save his job. I really did. I thought Cincinnati could make a run and make the tournament, but just fell a little bit short. But again, I mean, he made 0 tournament appearances in 5 years at Cincinnati. 0. So it's just not good enough.
That Central Florida loss, UCF. That UCF loss was brutal. Like I think if they win that game, I really do. If you're Wes Miller, I think you've got an opportunity to go to your athletic director and say, look at all we overcame this year, and look at how we rallied the second half of the season. Yep. I think you could have argued to your athletic director that we got robbed. We got screwed. We should have been in the NCAA tournament. Look at the metrics. Look at our wins. Look at how much things have changed since Jizzle James came back. I think he could have sold himself another year. But when you lose that game in the fashion they lost it, having a double-digit lead late, and that would have been a chance to get to Dayton. I don't know how good of a chance it would have been. It would have at least been a chance, and then you would have had your shot against Arizona, but you blew that, and I don't really think he had much of an argument to go make to his athletic director, to the president, to the boosters on why he should come back.
The other part, too, just the first half of the season for them was just awful.
Horrendous. They were not that bad.
They lost games that they had no business losing, and that's why ultimately Wes Miller did get fired. Just
no
didn't
doubt.
Get the job done.
And I think that's a pretty good job. They're in another boat of, like, it's hard to be competitive in both. It's in this day and age in the Big 12, especially for these teams that are coming up from the Group of 5 level. It's going to be really hard for UCF to maintain success in both sports. I think it'll be really hard for Colorado to maintain success in both sports. Cincinnati. I think Iowa State, it's going to be difficult to maintain success in both sports, especially if Iowa State makes a Final Four. Like, as an athletic department, as a university, how do you not want to put more and more resources into your basketball program? But those resources have to come from somewhere. My point is, like, Cincinnati probably has to make a call. What do you really want to be great at? And I think historically that's a really good basketball program, a good arena. They've got a lot of famous NBA alumni, but it's hard. It takes money to win in this sport.
Maybe see if Texas Tech will give you a loan.
You joke about that, but if we're talking about that in 6 years, would you be shocked?
No, I don't think I would at this point. Nothing would shock me in college athletics anymore.
You can say that again. Well, this has been bigger than 12. What a note we ended on. We'll be back next week. I don't know what day. Maybe Monday.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. That's a good way of putting it. We'll have a show for you, and it'll be all right here in the Channel Seed Studios. Thank you for tuning in to Bigger Than 12. Be sure to follow along Iowa Everywhere all week. We're going to have so much content for you, and we will be back early next week.
Woohoo!